And we are taping.
I mean, we telling people?
I mean, I think they'll know that it's not live when they see there's no comments going on live on this topic.
Ah, good
Yeah,
call. Good call.
yeah.
I keep you around for more than just a pretty face.
hmm
So that's
So
Michael. I'm Leroy. Oh, wait. And Leroy and Owen is up just in case Owen wakes up. So,
there we go. So yeah, we got another taped edition of Press Play this weekend. Uh, Leroy has an interesting topic. I don't know. I think Leroy's going to have more to say about this than I will, but I'll be able to ask him questions because I think he probably has stronger opinions about this than I do.
here's the thing. I don't. I think it's very interesting that
Well, wait, this is about to be an interesting topic if you don't have strong opinions.
because I really don't know where I stand on this. So here's
Uh,
the thing. It came out today. I'll go to the article that really kind of sparked this. Uh, I'm Legend 2 is going into the planning stages. It's the Will Smith vampire movie based
Slap
on the.
don't keep people down for long.
I'm not even touching that. It's the movie based on
So,
the Richard Matheson book, the original Richardson Matheson book, about a man who is alone at the end of the world, end of days, trying to find a cure to the vampire disease or virus. Um, the original ending has Will Smith dying, and the new movie is going to go with the alternate ending that was on the DVD. So they're not going. So here's the thing: producer and writer, co-writer Akiva Goldsmith just signed a new deal with Warner Brothers. And it's one of the two projects he's already working on. The other being Constantine 2. Um, Will Michael B. Jordan will join the cast with the original star Will Smith. However, Will Smith isn't dead in this. And
hmm
I think that's interesting that we're starting to see a lot of movies basically ignore the sequels that they don't like or an ending that they don't like to keep a franchise going or to do a soft reboot of a franchise without redoing the whole thing. And I think that's fascinating. I don't. So here's a list of the movies that it's happened to. So we're talking about I Am Legend 2 because that's a big deal.
hmm
Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan are two of the biggest. I mean, those are A-list stars, slap or no slap. But it's not. This is not the first time a movie has done this. Um, let's start with Superman Returns. Ignored Superman 3 and Superman 4. It started Superman Returns. A lot of people don't realize Brandon Roth's movie starts after um, Superman 2. Remember, that was when we got Zod and the weird time travel and all that other stuff. Uh, I just, you tell me, is this something that you're interested in? And are you interested in a I Am Legend that ignores the original sequel? Let's start there.
so it's interesting that you asked because when I saw the first I Am Legend, I thought, okay, didn't hate it, didn't love it. I thought it was perfectly fine. I never really thought about it again. I think I mean we'd heard rumblings about them doing some sort of sequel for a while now, not really knowing. And I think the big question everybody thought was, how are they going to do that? Will Smith is dead,
Mhm. Yep.
and I guess
hmm
they said Will Smith can do whatever he wants.
Will
Once
Smith
you
can survive anything.
once you slap somebody, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Is that what happens? If I slap somebody, I become TV, I become movie immortal. So all
Also,
the movie.
you have to be Will Smith.
Oh,
There's a part A and a part B.
a key ingredient for those boys and girls at home: you must be Will Smith before you slap someone to
Yes,
gain TV and movie immortality.
yes,
So if for those of you out there who are not Will Smith,
yeah,
don't go
um,
around slapping people
yeah.
because
But
it ain't gonna work for you.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's interesting, but again, because it's not a franchise that is so dear to me, I can go with it either way. I think it would be interesting if, for example, there was like a Ninja Turtles movie that were to come out that I was really excited about, and they somehow changed the ending to one of the last movies, I'd be like, ugh. That
Which
would make
one though? Because here's the thing: would it be Secret of Ooze? Because there how many there what three Ninja Turtle movies that actually the original three or
you have the
four?
original three,
The original
then
three.
you
So the
have a
first one,
CG one that came out that was really good,
okay,
and then you have two more that were
Michael
either
Bay
produced
movies.
or directed by Michael Bay or whatever.
Yes, the Michael Bay where they were like giant turtles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So because here's the thing, this is not the first movie to do that. It's just it seems to be the first movie that's like, we're gonna go with the alternate ending. Um, but which movie would you be upset by if they did it within the Turtles movies? In other words, would you be upset if they said through two after two nothing happened, or what if they said one is the only movie in this franchise?
You know what? I'd probably be okay with that because one
I'm,
is the best movie.
I
I
won't disagree
think
with
two
that.
is fun and has its little spot, but I mean, it's not. You know, they definitely desensitized it for sure. They made it a little more kid friendly. If you notice in that movie, I'm pretty sure they never bring out their weapons. They
Really,
fight with
see,
other stuff
I'm
just
gonna be
because
honest
they're
with
like,
you. I don't remember anything after the first one.
yeah, yeah. I think the first one's the best one.
Yeah.
The first one, and then that CGI movie they made was really
Okay.
good. I thought, but the second one is Kitty. I love it. It has great one liners and stuff, but it doesn't mean anything to me. And the third one is just trash.
But that's
But
the one they
I
go
had to
back in
watch
time.
it.
They go back in
Yes,
time, right?
yeah, they go back in time.
I don't
It's
remember that. I just remember the box because every time I would go to like a video store or whatever, you would always
yeah,
see that box out there.
yeah,
Because
it's
here,
rough.
because here's the thing. Because basically, what we're talking about is, and I didn't coin the phrase. This gentleman, Dan Larson, he really has it on his channel, Toy Galaxy. Is it canon? And
Hmm.
that's what we're dealing with right now. Basically, movie studios and saying this isn't canon. We're going to ignore this and we're going to keep it going. Now, I don't have a strong opinion about it because there were movies that I'm like, okay, that's cool. So let's go through. Den of Geek has a great article, and they now here's the funny thing: they did this article in response to another movie that came out. This is from 2015. 2015, and there were already 10 franchise sequels that already ignored at least one previous film. So here's where they came. And the reason why I
So
bring up 20
what movie did they do it in response to, or what
A-
article?
Alien Neil Blomkamp's Alien. Remember, Neil Blomkamp was supposed to do an Alien movie, and he was supposed to ignore everything after Aliens. So Alien, James Cameron, no, Alien, James Cameron. Wait, no, not James Cameron. Ridley Scott.
Scott,
So
Ridley
Ridley
Scott.
Scott. Sorry, Aliens is James Cameron. Then three is David Fincher, and four I don't know who did four, but basically everything after two they were going to ignore. Blomkamp was going to do the story of what happened to Ripley, Bishop, and Newt, and what's old boy's name? I can't remember right now. But basically, that's where his movie is going to pick up. In 2015, they wrote this article. So we already talked about Superman, and I'll
Hmm.
get into Aliens in a second. But let's go through the list. So we already did Superman Returns, Jaws: The Revenge. Um, Now here's the funny one. This is one that they did several times. Halloween H2O 20 years later. Ignored all the Halloweens after Halloween 2. Now, keep in mind, they did this one twice. That's how big this is in the sense of they did it once and they did it again.
Hmm.
Okay. So after that, we've got American Reunion, ignored the American Pie Presents series and spinoffs. Highlander 3, The Sorcerer, ignored Highlander 2, The Quickening. I actually like Highlander 2, The Quickening. It is just crazy goddamn fun. It makes no sense. The Exorcist 3 ignored Exorcist 2, The Heretic. We go to A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The Dream Warriors ignored Freddy's Dead Part 2. Universal Soldier: The Return ignores Universal Soldier 2: Brothers at Arms, Universal Soldier 3: Unfinished Business, and picks up right after the original Universal Soldier, which is an underrated classic. I really love that movie.
Hmm.
If I had to remake a movie, that's one of the ones I would love to do. Bring back the original cast. Anyway, that's another story. Rocky Balboa ignored Rocky Five, uh, and Prometheus, which ignores Alien versus Predator, basically all the Aliens versus Predator movies. So this isn't a new phenomenon. It's just something that has been done sparingly. But do you notice a pattern or a trend?
That these are all garbage franchises.
If you were here, I would slap you. I would slap you. I would turn into Chris. I would turn. I was about to say Chris Brown. Woo. This is ooh. Sorry.
Oh, he did more than slap people.
I know, man.
Yeah.
I said Chris Brown, and all I was thinking was Will Smith. Oh, I'm sorry, Will Smith. I apologize.
Hmm.
Friend of the show, Will Smith. Um,
Hmm. But
no
no, I think a lot of that stuff to me, a lot of it is
horror,
like,
horror.
oh, well, I wasn't gonna say horror. I was
Oh,
gonna
what
say
were you gonna say?
like genre stuff,
Yes,
not necessarily horror, but genre stuff for
I
sure.
was. I was gonna go with horror. A lot of this is horror and sci-fi. That where you have to already suspend belief and make a leap make a leap in believability to understand and enjoy these movies to begin with. Um,
I think it's interesting that, and you would know this better than me, but it kind of reminds me of comic books in that every once in a while, every, I don't know, this, but I don't know, every 4 or 5 years, they could do like a new number one, right, of a franchise or
four or
whatever.
5 years, buddy. They do that within the same year.
Oh, okay. Well, see, there you go.
Yeah,
Like they'll do a new number one. Like
yeah.
here's a new jumping off point, and
Well,
it seems like it kind of. And I don't know. In those cases, does it like get rid of the old continuity, or just do like retcons, or?
so here's the thing, and that's you bring up. That's a very good point, and I didn't even think about that. So a lot of times in comic books, before they used to have what's called that, what they still do. It's called legacy numbering. So like Detective Comics is up to 1,000, Superman's up to 1,000, because and they have restarted these franchises, these books with new creator teams going in a different direction. But the company keeps the number going in there, like in the back of their mind, the counter. But then they've restarted these lines, these franchises. Sometimes they just restart it just to get a new number one because that is one chapter of that story. One
Hmm.
of the ones I liken is to Guardians of the Galaxy, the most recent runs. They have restarted that series with different creative teams. And I'm not saying they're bad because I've liked a lot of the stories and the comics, but it's just like, how do you keep up? Like, if you're just jumping into it, where do you start?
Hmm.
And it's interesting and it's fun, but it does get confusing with movies. I think my question is, does it cheapen it? Because if you like those movies that they just are like throwing out the window, how do you feel about that? Because like personally, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't mind Aliens restarting after two. Now I like three. I like David Fincher's three, um, Alien three. Now I do wish they had originally went with the idea that Aliens three. The original idea was the Sulaco comes to Earth and
Hmm.
aliens, the xenomorph ends up on Earth. I really like that idea, but they cut the budget. They decided to go in a different direction. David Fincher, they did David Fincher dirty. It was like, this is what you got, and he made the best movie he could. And then we got Alien Resurrection, and it wasn't terrible. I mean, I watch it from time to time. Uh, Shout out to Michael Wincott. I when he got cast, I was like, I love him, and I think Dan Hara, Ron Perlman. I just like the movie. It's not great, but I do like it. But I did want to see what Neil Blomkamp could do because remember, this is the guy who came on the scene with District 9. I didn't like Chappie, but I loved Elysium.
Choppy,
I hated Chappie.
choppy.
I couldn't even get through it. It was so But I love
Yeah.
District 9 and I love Elysium. Um, so I really wanted to see that. I didn't mind Superman Returns. I think it was a very decent movie. Kevin Spacey was a great Lex Luthor. Um,
Who knew he was so evil in real life? He was drawing on his own experiences.
no comment.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see what this I Am Legend is like because they jumpstart and Akiva Goldsmith talks about the fact that watching The Last of Us has really helped him. Like,
Goldsman, by the way, we keep saying Goldsmith is
is it
Goldsmith.
Goldsman?
Yeah.
I thought it was Goldsmith. You're right, it is Goldsmith. I don't know why I think Goldsmith. Either way, um, basically, here's the thing, and I'm wondering is Michael B. Jordan's son. But he says Goldsman won't say how Michael B. Jordan's character fits in, but it's a few years later. Maybe he's the child or Neville's child. We'll see. But it does sound like they don't stay in Vermont and are first to go back to New York, then overrun by the infected because the two different endings. So you can go online on YouTube and you can see the alternate ending. Will Smith makes a deal almost to a there's a truce with the infected.
Mhm.
Whereas in the original ending, the theatrical ending that I saw in the theater, he dies, and Alice Braga leaves with the vaccine and goes back to her camp. Um, I liked I Am Legend. I know you were like you could take it or leave it. I'm gonna be honest with you. When the dog died, that was tough for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I didn't. The girl that I was dating, I was on a date with my then, not my wife, but a woman before I met my wife. She broke, and she didn't
Mhm.
even have a dog. Like she
Mhm.
broke. Like I looked over and she was like, and the dog, and I was like, damn, you want me to get you a puppy? No, I was like, okay, come, okay, but I'm not gonna lie, like that hit me hard too,
Mhm.
and especially when you realize how he got the dog, like you were just like, oh, come on, like that's some great acting, especially if you guys go back and look at the on the DVD, the green screen of him with the dog and the stuff like he did with the dog and Will Smith, you can slap me any day. Um,
That slapped me any day. Okay,
just saying,
fantastic. Yeah.
you can slap anybody. I'm down. Uh, but I do think it's an interesting concept to restart a franchise. And I didn't tell you this question beforehand, but I am going to ask you, what franchise or movie would you do this with? Because we didn't even get to the movies recently that they've done it with. Terminator, Dark Fate ignores all of the sequels. It starts after Terminator 2. But
Um,
what movie would you do this with? What franchise would you that you think went off the rails, or you would like? Okay, this is the stopping point where it gets crazy, and let's start from here.
I mean, one can make the argument you could do it with the Fast and Furious
I knew you
franchise,
were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
only because
Where?
we're talking about
Where?
who knows, right? I mean,
But where?
that thing goes so far off the rails. Um, I mean, maybe you do it after six,
Which
maybe
one is six? Because I don't know the numbers. I just know
six.
what happens in them.
So five is the one where the Rock is introduced, and they're in Brazil.
That's in Brazil where they,
Yeah,
which they're
that's with the
honest.
bank.
Because I'm gonna bring something up about this series, but go ahead.
Six is the one where they're in
Being
London.
chased by the Rock.
Um, kinda.
Is he
They were
still
chased. They were chased by the Rock in five.
five?
In six, he goes to Vin Diesel like, "Hey, I need your help to stop this other dude, and
Jason
you're gonna
Statham.
no. The other guy before Jason Statham's brother. I can't think of his name. And
Evan.
Luke Evans or something.
Luke Evans. So
Yeah.
wait a minute. Luke Evans was in between. So Deckard Shaw comes after they hospitalize Luke Evans.
Yes. I think
Okay,
that was
continue.
Owen Shaw, right? Yeah, maybe.
Owen Shaw. Owen
Yeah.
Shaw, because then Deckard Shaw is. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, I would say maybe that one. Um, and that's just a point, honestly. Um, if I was being a little more serious, and that was kind of more of a joke. If I was being more serious, maybe I would say let's do Mortal Kombat again. I know they're doing Mortal Kombat.
Mhm.
but maybe let's do a Mortal Kombat that forgets everything and just keeps the first Mortal Kombat movie, the lore of that, and then goes from there. I'd be
With
happy with that.
Raw Julia.
No, man, that's Street Fighter, different franchise.
Sorry, you're right. Sorry. I'm trying now. I can't even remember the original Mortal Kombat.
I mean, it's not a great movie. It's fun, but I mean, it's not a great movie.
I honestly can. All I can remember is was it Shao Kahn? No,
Shao Kahn is at the very end of the
yeah,
first
when
Mortal
he's
Kombat.
like, "I choose you." Is it like that's the meme? I'm
That's
trying to
Shang
remember.
Tsung.
Shang Tsung. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Like I don't remember that movie to be honest with you. Like I know I watched it. I
yeah,
watched it in the theater. I don't remember it, and all I remember is the theme song.
yeah. I mean, theme song rock. People know that
Yeah.
theme song.
Dun, dun, dun,
Um,
dun, dun. But here's the thing: you brought up Mortal. You brought up Fast and Furious.
uh-huh.
Fast and Furious has been doing this the entire time.
Sure.
Like if you think about it, because basically what we're talking about is retconning, and that should be what the title of this video. We're retconning movies, just
Hmm.
like in comics. That's because that's you brought up comics, and that was a great point. We're retconning movies. So Fast and Furious is retconning movies as it goes along because the biggest retcon was Tokyo Drift. Han dies, Deckard Shaw kills him, steps over the body, and then comes after them after they tried to kill Owen Shaw. That's
Hmm.
like the biggest, one of the biggest retcons. Then we go back and retcon. Letty's still alive. Then we
That happened
retcon.
beforehand.
Okay. Then we retcon. We retcon. Oh no, Han's not dead. And it's like they are literally retconning this movie franchise as we go along with Fast 10, where now we go back to Brazil, which is Fast and the Furious 5, and now we have Gigolo, uh, Aquaman.
Not Gigolo Aquaman.
Go and watch that SNL skit. I'm telling you, he is playing that same character. I don't care what nobody says. He is the same character from SNL, and that shit is hilarious. Um,
Fair enough. I mean, he has a wild look, but it's Jason Momoa. So I mean,
he pulls
when
it
when
off.
when you're Jason Momoa, you can do whatever you want.
I mean, Mama, that's a man.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. They're literally retconning this franchise as we're living and breathing. So you talk about, yeah, we can retcon five. They've already done it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and then another Vin Diesel movie franchise, Riddick, because you have the original Pitch Black, you have the sequel that is insane, and then you have the third one, which goes back to the original, and now we're going to have a fourth Riddick, which is
Making a fourth
uh,
Riddick.
they're trying that was the whole idea. They were trying to make a fourth because they want to build on that the Furioso, whatever that was, the planet that he's from. Because remember, he always said that I got these eyes in jail on a penal colony, and then the second one was like, oh no, there's a whole planet of us.
All I remember about the last Riddick movie was Katie Sackhoff was in it, who I love. Katie Sackhoff, I have a huge crush
Yes,
on her.
mhm.
She was also a lesbian in that movie,
She was.
and
Yep,
depending on how
yep,
you read it,
yep.
Riddick may have turned her to be straight, which is
She
a
s-
wild thing to have happen.
she said if I was going to, I'd bang Riddick. Yes, that did happen in that movie.
Yeah,
Because
it's like
remember,
I mean, that's the power of Riddick.
because
Chat, let me
remember,
know exactly how it happened, but yeah,
because I don't know if you remember. Guess who else was in that movie?
I don't know.
Dave Batista.
Oh, okay.
Yep, because in the trailer they cut it. Dave Batista was like, "Oh yeah, we need to cut him loose," because there was a group of bad guys who were trying to track down Riddick
Hmm.
because he got marooned on that planet, a la like Pitch Black, and he needed to get off the planet. So what he did was he announced a beacon saying, "Hey, come get me," and then he told the mercenaries, the bounty hunters, hey, leave this other shit, leave me a cell so I can get off this planet and I'll let y'all live. And they were like, nah, buddy, you're Riddick. So we go collect this bounty. And then the monsters that were coming showed up. And then another bounty hunter ship showed up. And
Hmm.
then Riddick was like, had this whole masterful plan. Uh, it, I like the Riddick franchise, but
If we're talking
it's
about Vin Diesel, another franchise that might have be that could use a reboot is
Triple X.
yeah, because you had three of them, right? You had one of them.
Three of
Then
them.
you had it. Then you had a second one where Ice Cube
Ice
took
Cube,
over,
State of the
and then the
Union.
third one,
He came
Riddick
back
came back.
because
But
remember in
Ice
the
Cube
second one,
was in the second. Well, actually, I guess that wasn't really a reboot because they counted number two.
but no, remember he died in the second one. That remember, Nick Fury told uh, Ice Cube from Straight Outta Compton, Riddick died, and
Oh
then he
yeah,
came back in the third one.
and they were like, "Oh yeah, don't worry about that. He didn't really die." Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
So I
lie.
mean, Vin Diesel's like, "Yeah, I'll reboot any franchise. It doesn't matter any of my
I,
stuff."
it's but am I crazy? Is this a new phenomenon, or is it just one of those things where we're just like, because it's been used so sparingly, and I think part of it is that, and it goes back to this conversation me and you have had about like video games and movies. People don't take the genre seriously, so
Hmm.
they're like, yeah, we can do that because they're not doing that shit with Titanic.
Well, I don't know if that's a fair comparison because they're also not making a sequel to Titanic. It's
That's
not
what
like
they have
like
talked
with
about.
all this franchise stuff. These are
I mean,
franchises. Like,
true, they became franchises, but my question is, they're not doing this with other movies.
okay, I'll give you that. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
but
saying. Like,
I'm okay with it. I think the whole idea of science fiction and this genre stuff is we can kind of be a little more creative, right? As
okay,
much as we want this stuff to be serious and taken seriously and all that stuff, I like the idea that you can kind of play in the space and be creative and change stuff around. You don't have to be so haughty taughty and sacrosanct among this stuff. And it has to be these upheld values and stuff. I think that's great that we can play around with the stuff.
can you say hottie toddy again?
Haughty taughty.
Say it sexy. Hottie toddy.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. But I mean, I don't know.
I just it's funny because we talk about these retconning because that's basically what it is, and Halloween has done it twice. So they did
Hmm.
it once with Halloween two. I say 2.220, but it's Halloween
H2O.
20 H2O.
Hmm.
They literally retconned this franchise twice, and it's like that. I don't know if I am like because I'm not a big horror fan. Like I've watched them to understand the movies and the motivations, but I just feel like that is a big, big just fuck it energy. Halloween 20 years later. Here's the part. By the time the 20th anniversary of John Carpenter's Halloween rolled around in 1998, it had already been built into a long and decidedly uneven franchise. Halloween H2O, Halloween 20, attempted to cut through the thicket of increasingly disappointing sequels with its events tying back to Halloween and Halloween 2 while completely ignoring the fourth, fifth, and sixth films. The
Hmm.
unrelated Halloween 3 Season of the Witch would financially unsuccessful attempt to take the franchise in a new non-slasher direction. I think that was the one where they had, I think there were Wiccans. Um, but then uh, so here, a box office success, if not exactly a smash, thanks to the renewed interest in the slasher genre. H2O received a single sequel, Halloween's 2002's Resurrection, before Rob Zombie stepped in with a 2007 reboot and a further sequel, and then they rebooted it again. That's the biggest fuck you energy I've ever seen when it
Why do
comes to
you? I
a
mean, why do you
franchise.
say that?
Because it's to me, it's one of those things where it's like we always talk about this idea of you're servicing your fans when you make a movie. You're trying to make money, but you're making these movies for the fans to get people into the box office or now streaming on television sets to see these content. To me, it's art, but it's commercial art. And you're rebooting an entire franchise over and over again because you don't like what came before it. And it's like, that's to me, that's amazing because it's like you're almost acting as if the stuff that came not almost you're acting like the stuff that came before doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And if you're a fan of that, because perfect example, Star Wars. Could you imagine if they said this shit doesn't matter and we're going to
I mean, they
reboot
do that all the time, though.
no they They
They
did
do
that
that all the
with
time, like when they were like, "Oh, this stuff is canon and this is legacy."
the expanded universe, and that's my point. Now imagine they did that with just the books and the comics. That's what I'm saying. Just books and comics. Now imagine if they did that with the prequels and they said nothing after the prequels. In other words, those first three movies, the prequels, Clone Wars, Rebels, Andor, Rogue One, none of that shit matters. Could you imagine the shitstorm that would erupt in the world if they did that?
I mean, here's the
I
thing:
kind and honestly,
people are
I kind of want
always
them to.
upset. Yeah, people are always upset about anything anyway. I think I do think this to be true, that Star Wars is too big to fail. So
Really?
even if, yeah, I do.
Okay,
I think even if that were to happen, I,
that's a bold.
people
That's a
people would be so upset that it would still generate enough controversy and heat that people would go see whatever the next thing is.
that's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I do. I think it's too big to fail.
Because here's the
Um,
thing. Go ahead, because I'm going somewhere with this.
well, my thing is like, yeah, even if Star Wars is seeing diminishing returns, people are still watching the stuff. I mean, it's still talked about all the time. There are still podcasts upon podcasts and fan
Mhm.
sites and websites about Star Wars. So it's not like Star Wars is going away anytime soon.
I I understand where you're coming from, and I think it's very interesting that we talked about Star Wars and because you're right, they have done that with the expanded universe. They got rid of it. And we saw what happened there. When they
Hmm.
got rid of the expanded universe, they were like, the only things that are canon is the shit we put on TV, which is they said the first three movies, the prequels, Clone Wars. Because remember, they acted like is it what Gene, the guy who did Samurai Jack. I always butcher his name, and I don't want to say it now because I don't feel like getting made fun of. Um, but
Tartakovsky?
yeah, I'm gonna go with yeah. That's his name. I'm not gonna tell you no, because remember they acted like that didn't exist for a while. You couldn't even buy that for a while unless you like went on the secondary market. Um,
Tartakovsky. Yeah, that's pretty close. Not bad. I'm proud of
yeah,
myself. I'll
sure
take
you were.
that.
but but Star Wars did it. They were like, the expanded universe doesn't matter. We're redoing all of this. The only thing that matters is Clone Wars and Rebels and the prequels. That's it.
Hmm.
And they did the last three movies, the last J.J. Abrams, Ryan Johnson, and J.J. Abrams. Those three movies. They did Rogue One and they did Solo. And then they rebooted, did the TV shows, and now they have Bad Batch. But you're right, Star Wars has done it. Star Trek, to a certain extent, has done it, has always been kind of doing it because all of it set in the universe. But Star Trek did it big time with the Kelvin universe when they introduced Chris Pine, Zoe Saldana, Zachary Quinto. Who
Yeah,
am I missing? Um,
Bones and Doc and
Bones and
everybody.
Scrubs.
And yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, they did it to a certain extent. They were like, "Hey, we want to use these characters. Here's J.J. Abrams' Star Trek." Here's the thing, and I think it's going to become more prevalent only because I think we're at a point where, and you brought up comics, and the reason why I bring this up is because I think it's coming, and it's going to hit hard, and it's going to be interesting to see how it happens. Do you know what franchise I'm thinking of?
what, Marvel?
Yep.
Sure.
Because it just has to. But here's the question: when do they do it? When do they restart everything? Because I'm here's my hot take. I think they don't introduce the mutants until they restart the whole thing.
Hmm.
I think Secret Wars and I think Kang Dynasty restarts everything. And I think what happens after that, it's like how like when you would watch TV at the I don't know how if you're old enough to remember, but remember when
Oh, when
TV.
TV actually went off the air?
Yes. And
Yeah,
then
and
it
you just
was
had the
like,
bars or whatever?
uh-huh.
Yeah,
And then they would play
sure.
the national anthem and then they would go, you know, we thank you for watching. For me, it was the Fox station. And when I lived in Beaufort, it was a Fox station. I think it was in Hardyville, but they were like, "Thank you for watching Fox. We sign off and we'll be back." Blah, blah, blah. And they would play the national anthem, and then it was just, doo, and then
Hmm.
that, boom. And
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen with the MCU. I think they're going to reboot the entire thing
interesting.
because after Phase Six, they've got two movies. They talk about they may break them up. Those Avenger movies, may break them up into three movies.
Hmm.
Um, Feige says he's planned out for the next 20 years, but they haven't said what comes after those Avenger movies. And
Sure.
we're everybody's biting at the chomp to say, okay, what happens? What happens? What happens? The mutants, the mutants, the mutants. You bought Fox, you have the X-Men. That is one of the biggest franchises. That's they want that. Bring it all together. Um, I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be something that happens over and over again. And you brought up Fast and the Furious, um, but they've done this with James Bond. Every different James Bond, they restart the whole thing. They ignore all the movies that came before, with the exception of Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig, because MK carried over Judy Dench.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think though, at a certain point, if you're going to continue to make stuff over and over, you kind of have to reboot in order to give you a fresh start and stuff, because eventually you kind of run yourself into a hole of like, huh, I kind of wrote myself into a corner. Let's just do a refresh to,
Transformers.
yeah. I mean, let's do a refresh to start over and to bring in a new audience. And I think the people like the diehard fans, I think they're kind of with you. I don't look at it as a betrayal of, oh, I've wasted all my time with this stuff. I mean, like, hey, it's all make believe, it's all fake, it's fine.
You think the diehard fans are with them now? See, to me, that's why I disagree, because I'm like the diehard fans, they love this stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
like, are they really with them, or are we just seeing a difference in echo chambers because we now have social media? Because we listed Jaws. Jaws was on this list. Superman was on this list. Those were old movies.
Hmm.
Um, we talked about the horror franchise. I don't know. I want to hear from people out there. What do you think? Would you be okay if in your favorite franchise they were like, I don't know, 2 through 6 doesn't fucking matter, because that's what they're doing.
I think people will be okay with it, because here's the thing: a lot of times when they do that, I feel pretty confident that the ones that they kill are not the most popular ones in the franchise.
I'll give you that.
So
I'll
it's
give
not
you
like
that.
they're killing, like when we talked about Rocky. It's not like they killed and said, oh yeah, Rocky, the first Rocky never happened. Now
True.
we got Rocky Balboa. I'm
It
talking
was
about
the
Rocky
bad.
Five. Rocky
Yeah.
Five, is that the one with the robot?
No, that's the one where he was punch drunk. Remember they took he had like the his mind wasn't there, so he was
Hmm.
kind of like stumbling. He couldn't talk really, and he was like that. And then they acted like that one didn't happen, and then they jumped to Rocky Balboa, which they did. And Rocky Balboa was actually pretty good, where they had like the simulation.
Hmm.
Could Rocky in his prime beat this new dude? And
Hmm.
then uh, Milo. Uh,
Vincent Miller.
yeah, thank God you said it. Lord, I was about to butcher that.
And I don't
Ooh,
even know. I feel like that's close, but it's close enough.
Last of Us guy. Not Last of Us. This is Us guy.
This is us.
This is us.
Heroes guy.
Yes. He's the son, and then he like they get back in touch. I don't like. I remember 5,
Hmm.
and I didn't hate 5, but I was like, oh, so y'all got like 5 doesn't exist, and it's like almost like everybody else went with it, and
Hmm.
it's one of those things where like when you do that, it's almost as if, and I'm trying to remember what it is, where it's like, is everybody, are you crazy? It's almost like when you're watching them Fringe. Do you remember at the end of Fringe when September and all the Watcher type dudes basically reset the timeline, and
Hmm.
everybody else was like, are we crazy? Like, this
Hmm.
is not the world we remember.
Yeah.
That's how fans, I think fans are, when everybody else is like, yeah, that shit didn't happen, and you're like, what the fuck it did? I have this on DVD, and they're like, nah, man, we restarted the whole thing, and you're like, wait a minute, am I crazy? They fringed all of us.
I feel like you might be projecting, sir. I've never looked at something and thought, oh, it never happened. I was like, all right, it's fine.
But what I'm saying is they're acting as if these things didn't happen when they reboot and retcon this stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like I'm okay with it to a certain extent because they didn't do it with any of the most beloved franchises, like you said. They
Hmm.
did it with Star Wars with the expanded universe, but I get why they did it. But let's be honest, we're not those people who were like pitchforks and torches. There are people who felt that way though when they did the expanded universe.
Yeah, but if that's the case, you need to talk to a crazy super fan. Then, I mean, we're probably not the right people to talk about it, right? You got to find one of them crazy people, get you a QAnon conspiracy person doing whatever, and talk to them.
I mean, I don't want to go as far as saying that they're QAnon, but
No,
they are. They, I mean, but Star Wars fans were upset because they had a picture of Thrawn in their head. They had a picture of these characters, Darth Revan. I'm trying to think of some other characters that they were like these from the books, from the comics. Um, Star Wars Legacy jumps 20 years, so it's Luke Skywalker's grandson. We never got Mara Jade. Mara Jade is the one who was the Emperor's secret hand.
hey,
Who
nerd, calm down.
all what I'm saying is you're saying that people don't care. I'm saying people do care, and that they did it, and that's what I'm saying. They did it with just comics and books, and Star Wars fans are still upset about that.
Sure.
There's still a war, and here's another thing: they still make action figures for those characters. The
Hmm.
new Hasbro Pulse Legends or Hasbro Pulse, I forget what it's called, but they're making a Mara Jade action figure based on her Emperor's Hand costume. They're
Hmm.
making these characters. They're cashing in on it, even though those characters are not canon. So, like I said, I find it interesting that this is
But like the
happening.
idea of rebooting and recasting and stuff, even though it seems like crazy, like you said, it's not new, right? Because it
No,
happens in everyday life. I mean, people reinvent themselves all the time. And if you look at like
George
certain movie
Santos.
stars, sure. But even like if you look at certain movie stars, like, oh man, they've been able to reinvent themselves. Like Madonna, right? People always talk about Madonna. I think is a great example that she's been able to find a way to keep herself relevant for a lot of people for decades by reinventing herself. I told you I started watching. I really started getting back into like wrestling documentaries and stuff,
Yes.
and like all they do is reboot people all the time in wrestlers when they got to find a new gimmick. Like the Undertaker, he found a way to reboot himself and
Mhm.
and restart his career over and over, whether it was like the Phenom or American Badass or different versions of the
Well,
Undertaker.
Brock Lesnar. Remember, not Brock. Brock wasn't. Is it Brock Lesnar? And because didn't he go to MMA? Did he leave wrestling, go
I'm
MMA?
not. That sounds
No.
right, but I
Yeah.
don't know enough about to know that for sure. But
Yeah.
that sounds right. I feel like yeah, he did do some MMA stuff and then come back to wrestling. So I mean, I think it's in our lexicon, it's in our world. People know of reboots and franchises, but I see what you're saying because people are so passionate about stuff. It's almost like they don't want to feel like their time is wasted. Maybe
Yeah, but I think the difference between wrestling is that it's entertainment, and those people are passionate. Though, like I would wager there probably is some overlap with Star Wars fans and wrestling fans, but they're
sure,
passionate. But the difference is the reinvention is baked into the storyline. Perfect
sure.
example: Hulk Hogan,
Hmm.
America's wrestler. He was American hero. He fought. He
Say your
like
prayers and eat your vitamins. That's what
there
he
you
always said.
go.
Yeah.
And then he turned heel
Hmm.
and he joined the NWO,
Hmm.
and that was monumentous. That was big. And then he came back and was good. We didn't realize in real life he was a bad dude, but in wrestling,
Right.
but it's baked in. We
Hmm.
have people who are the heels for a while, and then wrestling writes them into being a superstar. Perfect example: The Rock and Stone Cold. How many times did The Rock get his ass handed to him by Stone Cold?
Sure. So many times.
And then what happened? They turned The Rock. into a superstar, and he made that
Hmm.
leap. And then he made that leap again from being a bit actor when he was acting in certain things to being The Rock. And a
Hmm.
comedian said this, and I didn't even, and a lot of people don't think about this for a second because we say certain things like, perfect example, Cher is one name. Madonna, you brought up Madonna, one name. The Rock's real name is not the goddamn Rock. His name is Dwayne fucking Johnson. But
Sure.
we know him as The Rock, the wrestler who became an actor. And no one else has pulled that off. You know why? Because we know Dave Batista's name is goddamn Dave Batista.
Yeah, but also when he wrestled, he was Batista.
That's my point. The Rock became The Rock. His name is Dwayne Johnson. He became The Rock. And we now know him as The Rock. And
I
only
get what you're
one of
saying. I would only fight back a little bit just because, like, that was his persona.
that's my point. What I'm saying is his persona was so built up that he's been able to carry that persona throughout his entire, like, that's his name.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm quite sure people call him, Dwayne. But if you saw him and walking through, would you say Dwayne or would you say that's The Rock?
I'd call him Dewey.
I want to close this laptop right now. I
That's
just want to,
a young rock reference.
I just want to, I just want to close this laptop, turn the light off, and just.
Saying his family calls him Dewey, I'd call him Dewey.
You ain't family, sir.
You don't know what I am to Dewey. You don't know what I am to the Mavias.
You know what? You're right. I don't. You're
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
I'll give you that one. To me, this is an interesting conversation because I noticed it and I was like, and you're right. It is genre stuff that has been happening to sci-fi and horror, um, but it's not because you brought up a very good point. People reinvent themselves all the time. That's all soap operas are.
Hmm.
People die, come back. These storylines of just reinvention. If I say the name Victor Newman, everybody goddamn knows who the fuck that is.
I've never. I don't even. I don't know what soap opera it is, but I know the name.
I used to, damn, it's not all my children.
Young and the
Young and the Restless.
Restless.
Young and the
Is that what it
Restless.
is? Okay.
Yep, but perfect example. Young and the Restless. How long has that been on?
I don't know.
These soaps, General Hospital, All My Children, Guiding Light. That's all they were.
I think Guiding Light might be done.
All of them are done pretty much. Hell, some of them aren't even on TV. They're on streaming services.
No, I feel like one of them like don't come on anymore. I can't remember which
Yeah,
one it is
yeah,
though.
that's what I'm saying. Like Guiding Light is not on TV anymore. All My Children. I don't know if All My Children is, but remember Passions.
I
But
do remember Passions. I never watched it, but people talked about Passions all the time.
I will
I remember
admit,
there was magic and
I will admit this. I did watch a season of Passions,
okay, there we go. I know there was magic and there was a witch.
sir.
Tabitha?
Sir,
Is that a person?
I used to watch Young and the Restless.
Okay, nothing
I
wrong with
used to
that.
I used to watch Young and the Restless. Me and my grandma, we used to watch that shit. But that it's funny we start off talking about genre stuff and we've come full circle to a certain extent. We talk about people reinventing themselves. Right now in the house, George Santos is the biggest thing going because no one actually knows who he is because he is literally lying and reinventing himself every step of the way. Like people are like, who is this dude? Your
Hmm.
name was George DeVolder. It's just like so I just found it interesting that we're getting that such a huge two of the biggest stars are reinventing a movie that wasn't a franchise that are just like, you know what? Director's cut, redo it. And people are like, cool.
Yeah, it's fine. And I think a lot of that is also it's been a while since we've had that movie, right? Like
Yeah.
it might be one thing if they did it like 2 years after the movie came out, but it's been a while.
Well, all of these have been, years afterwards.
Yeah.
But I'm old enough to remember Halloween H2O when it came out. Because
Is that the one
Buster
with
Rhymes,
Busta Rhymes?
yep, Buster
Yeah.
Rhymes was that. Oh, hold
I
on.
feel like I remember
Wasn't LL Cool J in one of these?
the screen for it. I don't know.
Wasn't LL Cool J in one of these too?
I don't know. He
But
was too
yeah,
busy being a chef in the shark movie.
uh, you know what we forgot?
What's that?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre and um, RoboCop Returns. They tried to make X Men First Class. How do we forget that one? I'm just going through some of the ones that I'm trying to remember now, like but Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think this is just an interesting turn, and I don't know how I feel about it because I think it could provide some interesting stories if you have a good one, but to certain fans, this may seem like a betrayal.
Well, let us know if you think it's a betrayal,
Yeah,
folks. We've been going 50 minutes.
yeah, I want to know from people because to me it isn't, but you ain't hit me hard. You know, like you took away the expanded universe, but I was kind of okay with that only because I knew why they had to do it. In order for you to expand Star Wars, you had to get rid of that and cherry pick what you wanted. Um, but I mean, some people expanded universe was that meant something to them, and they are not okay. So
Well, you will be okay, folks. We'll come back to you with another episode here coming up in a week or so. Maybe it'll be live, maybe it won't be. We don't know. We'll figure it out as we go because we do this day by day. What got you through the week?
honestly, I started back watching Peaky Blinders.
It's a good show.
I wanted to watch
Oh,
some.
Aunt Polly.
I wanted to watch some mofo's fuck up some shit.
Okay,
And if
there
you
we
talk,
go.
hey, you talk about a family who rides or die for theirs,
Yeah,
you ain't got to look no further than the Peaky Blinders.
yeah, they're rough. They're rough indeed. For me, I'm still watching my wrestling stuff on Peacock. I'm enjoying that a lot. Watching this 20 episode season of the Monday Night Wars
Well,
between
which one?
Nitro and Raw.
Oh,
Um, it's interesting because
Nitro. Oh,
I it's
Raw is war.
the way they set it up. It's almost like you already know what happened, so it's interesting just to hear like behind the scenes stuff because it's really interesting to hear how much money was being thrown around for somebody to be work like half a year. Like, oh, you got $1 million work half a year. What? Dang, it's just crazy to hear the money and the fact that Ted Turner was like, yeah, we trying to get anybody, so I'll sign whatever you want.
Yeah, but you got to be in top. Like you got to take them hits, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like people like wrestling is fake. Let me slap you in the chest, goddamn 30 times, bare chested.
yeah,
Let
yeah,
me throw you off the top rope. The Dudley brothers, the thumbtack, the tables, ladders, and chairs.
yeah.
Gosh, like I'm sorry, those are some real mofo's. Those are some American heroes. And
Our
on that,
yeah. On that note, we out, folks. American heroes. We out.
peace.
Peace.